Alright, buckle up, history buffs and horror hounds. Today we are diving deep. We're talking about the OGs, the very first civilization on this planet. The Sumerians. Forget what you think you know about ancient history. We're plunging headfirst into the shadows, uncovering 10 absolutely insane and terrifying rituals that these guys actually did. We're talking blood pacts with literal gods, cursed clay tablets that could snatch your soul, and daughters of a major deity paying a price so horrifying, it'll make your blood run cold. We're talking about gateways to forces beyond human comprehension, rituals so powerful, so dangerous, that even today, whispers of their dark energy linger. And get this, archaeologists and explorers who've tried to dig too deep into this stuff, vanished, gone completely mad. Or worse, way worse. Are these just dusty old stories? Or do these ancient rituals still hold some kind of terrifying power over our world? We're about to find out. So, if you're ready to face the darkness, if you've got the guts to stare into the abyss of the ancient world, but don't say we didn't warn you. Some secrets? They were buried for a reason. Alright, let's get into it. But first, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Subscribe so you don't miss any of our mind-blowing dives into the unknown. Ring that notification bell so you're the first to see our next terrifying discovery. And let us know in the comments below. Which of these rituals do you think is the most chilling? Let's get this spooky party started. The blood of a king was more than a symbol. It was a contract with forces that no mortal dared defy. Upon ascending to the throne, the new Sumerian ruler was led to the Eker, the most sacred chamber deep within the temple complex. The air was heavy with the scent of burning cedar, and the only light came from flickering oil lamps that cast distorted shadows on the walls. At the heart of the chamber lay the Urku, a stone altar stained dark with the blood of generations of kings. The high priest, an elder figure who claimed descent from the first rulers of Sumer, would raise a ceremonial dagger, its black obsidian blade rumored to be forged from a fallen star. With solemn precision, the king's palm was cut, allowing his blood to flow into a golden chalice carved with inscriptions of the gods Anu and Enlil. The king was required to drink from the chalice, binding his soul to the divine. It was believed this act granted the king wisdom and divine protection, but it came at a price. Should he fail to honor his people or defy the gods, the blood pact would turn against him, and his life would be forfeit. Historical records tell of King Lugalbanda, who, after neglecting to perform the harvest ritual, fell mysteriously ill. Witnesses claimed his skin turned ashen, and his voice grew faint, as if something unseen drained his life. On the seventh day, he vanished from his palace chambers. Servants reported hearing his anguished whispers echoing through the temple at night, long after he was gone. Those who questioned the ritual faced dire consequences. In 1918, an archaeologist leading an excavation of the Eker chamber reportedly mocked the blood pact as primitive superstition. Days later, his body was found twisted and contorted, his face frozen in an expression of terror. To this day, no one has dared reopen the chamber. The Sumerians believed that words held power, especially when spoken in the presence of the gods. Hidden beneath the ziggurats of Nippur, a collection of Imgurgal, or whispering tablets, were discovered, their surfaces etched with strange, looping characters that resembled no known script. These tablets were not for common eyes. Only the most devout scribes, chosen after years of training and ritual purification, were permitted to perform the Idizalakar, the whispering rite. This ritual required the scribe to isolate themselves for 7 days, consuming nothing but honeyed water to cleanse their spirit. On the final night, they would kneel before a basin of black water, believed to reflect the unseen world. While gazing into the water's surface, the scribe would whisper secrets of the city, the sins of kings, the fears of priests into the wet clay. Once spoken, these secrets were said to become trapped within the tablet, where only the gods could hear them. But the ritual was dangerous. Legends tell of a scribe named Ikersag who became obsessed with the knowledge he recorded. Against the temple's warnings, he broke the tablets and read their inscriptions aloud beneath the light of a blood-red moon. Days later, his colleagues found him wandering the temple grounds, whispering in a language no one recognized. His eyes were milky white, and his shadow moved independently, as though something else controlled it. Modern scholars who have attempted to translate these tablets report disturbing side effects, hearing faint whispers in the dead of night or seeing shadowy figures in their peripheral vision. One researcher, after completing a partial translation in 2003, mysteriously disappeared from his locked office, leaving behind only an unfinished transcription. They are still waiting. To be chosen as a daughter of Ishtar was both an honor and a curse. These women were handpicked to serve the goddess of love and war, but their service required the performance of a terrifying ritual known as the Kugshamtur, the Night of Union. Each spring, under the light of the first full moon, a new daughter of Ishtar would be led to the Eanna temple. There, she was adorned in golden veils and marked with sigils believed to grant her divine protection. The priests would present her to a mysterious, masked figure known only as the vessel. This figure was believed to embody Dumuzi, the consort of Ishtar, and through their union, the goddess's favor would be bestowed upon the city. Yet, behind the beauty of the ritual lay a darker truth. Many priestesses claimed to experience strange visions during the ceremony. Visions of shadowy beings watching from the temple's corners, their faces obscured. Some awoke with no memory of the night, only faint symbols burned into their skin, symbols that glowed faintly beneath the moonlight. One of the most chilling tales is that of Enheduanna, a high priestess who attempted to reveal the identity of the vessel. On the morning after the ritual, her attendants found her lifeless body sprawled across the temple floor. Her face was twisted in horror, her eyes blackened, and a single word was etched into her forehead in Sumerian script: silence. Even now, visitors to the ruins of the Eanna temple report hearing distant chanting at night. Some claim to see a veiled woman wandering the site, her golden robes shimmering under the moonlight, forever trapped by the curse of Ishtar. In ancient Sumer, death was a transition, not an end. But for the servants of the elite, their master's death meant an unspeakable fate. The Ujigal-2, the Great Binding, was a ritual where trusted servants were buried alive alongside their deceased master to ensure their continued service in the afterlife. These chosen individuals were often drugged with a mixture of opium and mandrake root, rendering them docile but conscious. They were dressed in ceremonial robes and laid beside their master's body within a stone chamber. Once the final prayers were spoken, the chamber was sealed forever. It was believed that the servants' souls would awaken in the afterlife, ready to serve their master for eternity. But some accounts suggest a darker outcome. Workers who constructed these tombs claimed to hear muffled screams days after sealing the chambers. Others refused to enter the burial grounds at night, fearing the Giddim, restless spirits of those buried alive. In 1925, during the excavation of the royal tombs of Ur, archaeologists uncovered a mass grave containing over 70 skeletons. Each had their hands positioned as if clawing at the stone walls. One worker reported seeing ghostly figures drifting through the burial pit at dusk, figures with hollow eyes and open mouths, as if forever screaming. Even today, the locals refuse to venture near the tombs after sunset. They believe the spirits of the bound servants still linger, waiting for someone to release them from their eternal prison. The city of Ur, a glittering jewel of the ancient Sumerian Empire, owed its prosperity to the Euphrates River. But beneath the surface of this life-giving water lurked a chilling truth, one the Sumerians dared not speak aloud. They believed the river had a spirit, a living force with the power to cleanse or condemn a soul. And each year, during the festival of Eid-ul-Mun, the Judgment of Waters, this belief became a terrifying reality. The festival began with a grand procession. Priests dressed in robes of deep blue, the color of the river, marched through the city carrying golden effigies of Enki, the god of water and wisdom. Citizens lined the streets, whispering prayers for mercy, while the accused, those believed to have angered the gods, were brought forward in chains. The trial itself was unlike anything in the modern world. No witnesses, no arguments, only the river's judgment. At dusk, the high priest would speak an ancient invocation, calling upon Enki to reveal the truth. The accused were then cast into the waters. If the river swallowed them whole, it was a sign of guilt. But if the currents carried them back to shore alive, they were declared innocent, cleansed of all wrongdoing. One of the most disturbing cases involved Kalatu, a healer accused of practicing forbidden magic. Witnesses claimed she could cure the incurable and summon rain during droughts. The priests, fearing she had struck a bargain with dark forces, condemned her to the river. But as she entered the water, something extraordinary happened. The river grew still. Instead of pulling her under, the current reversed, pushing her back onto the shore. The crowd gasped, believing Enki had intervened. But the priests were not satisfied. That night, Kalatu vanished from her home. Days later, fishermen found her lifeless body downstream, her skin marked with strange, spiral-shaped burns. Rumors spread that the river had claimed her after all, and that its thirst was never truly quenched. Even now, local legends speak of eerie lights drifting across the water's surface and ghostly figures appearing when the moon is full. Some say the river still hungers for those who escape its grasp. Hidden deep beneath the ziggurat of Nippur lay the House of Silence, a chamber so ancient that even the Sumerians considered it old. This was the site of the Uarningal, the Night of the Shadow Lords. Performed once every century, this ritual was meant to commune with spirits of the underworld. But it came at a terrible cost. The ceremony began at sunset. Only the high priest and a circle of initiates chosen from birth could enter the House of Silence. Each participant wore a mask of black obsidian, concealing their identity, an offering to Ereshkigal, the goddess of the dead. They carried bloodstones, polished gems believed to capture the souls of the departed. At the heart of the ritual was a willing sacrifice. This person, known as the Giddambal, or bearer of shadows, would drink a potion made from black lotus and the venom of desert vipers. As their heartbeats slowed, the priests chanted the 7 names of darkness, words forbidden outside the ritual. It was said these names opened a gate to the underworld, allowing the spirits of the ancient dead to cross over. Historical records describe a disastrous ritual in 2147 BCE. That year, the priests selected a markur, a young scribe, to be the bearer of shadows. But as the final name was spoken, something went wrong. Witnesses outside the temple reported hearing an inhuman wail, followed by a violent tremor that cracked the ziggurat's foundation. When the chamber was opened, the priests were gone. Only their shadows remained, burned into the stone walls. In the centuries that followed, the ritual was never performed again. Archaeologists who explored the ruins of Nippur in the 20th century found unsettling evidence. Obsidian masks fused to the walls and scorched footprints leading to a sealed door. To this day, that door remains closed. Local superstition warns that opening it would release the Shadow Lords back into the world. In the city of Eridu, the oldest of all Sumerian settlements, stood a statue unlike any other, a towering figure of Enki, carved from a single piece of midnight black stone. But this was no ordinary statue. It was believed to possess a fragment of the god's consciousness, capable of granting wisdom or unleashing madness. The Duranki ritual was performed under a full moon, when the boundary between the mortal world and the divine was weakest. Seekers of forbidden knowledge would approach the statue carrying a silver chalice filled with blood and salt, an offering to bind the physical and spiritual realms. They would cut their palms and anoint the statue's mouth, reciting the words, "Enki, keeper of secrets, open the gate of knowing." If the god was pleased, the seeker would receive a vision, glimpses of future events or hidden truths. But if the offering was impure, the seeker would be cursed, plagued by shadowy figures only they could see. One of the most infamous cases involved King Amarsin, who sought the ritual's power to learn the secret of eternal rule. After completing the rite, he claimed to see visions of a golden city beneath the earth, ruled by beings with eyes like burning coals. But these visions came at a price. He began to hear whispers calling him to return to the statue. Days before his disappearance, witnesses saw him wandering the temple at night, muttering in a language no one recognized. When his tomb was opened centuries later, no body was found. Only a blackened stone tablet inscribed with the words, "The gate is open." Modern researchers who examined fragments of the statue reported disturbing effects: hallucinations, sudden memory loss, and a sense of being watched. Many believe the statue's power remains active, waiting for the next seeker bold enough to call upon Enki's name. Among the Sumerians, death was not the end. They believed that the souls of the dead could return if their burial rites were not properly observed. For the most honored dead, the Igidimtal, or rite of the silent tomb, was performed to prevent their spirits from rising and to bind them forever to the afterlife. The ritual began days before the burial. The deceased's body was washed in sacred oil and wrapped in linen, soaked with myrrh and bitumen, believed to anchor the soul. But the most chilling aspect was the selection of the living guardian, a servant or family member chosen to be buried alive with the dead. The guardian was drugged into a state of deep sleep and placed within the tomb. Their purpose was to serve the deceased in the afterlife and prevent any spirits from returning. However, if the guardian awoke during the burial, it was said their soul would become trapped, unable to pass into the underworld, yet cut off from the living. Archaeological evidence supports these accounts. In 1927, Sir Leonard Woolley uncovered the Royal Cemetery of Ur, where multiple bodies were found entombed alongside their rulers. Many of these bodies showed no signs of struggle, suggesting they had been buried willingly or under the influence of narcotics. One tomb bore an especially eerie inscription: "The gate is sealed, but the sleeper stirs." Workers at the excavation reported hearing faint voices and footsteps within the sealed chambers. Some believed these were echoes of the trapped guardians, still bound to their eternal vigil. Even today, the ruins of Ur are avoided after nightfall. Locals tell of shadowy figures seen near the tombs, figures who never speak, but whose silent presence chills the blood. In the heart of Lagash, the Sumerians performed a powerful and terrifying ritual known as the Ursitlatal, or binding of the black earth. This ancient rite was believed to control the fertility of the land, but if misused, it could unleash a devastating curse that blighted the earth and twisted the fates of those who performed it. The ritual took place during the spring equinox, when the barriers between the mortal world and the divine were at their thinnest. Priests gathered in a hidden chamber beneath the temple of Ningirsu, the god of war and agriculture. At the center of the chamber lay a pit filled with black earth, soil collected from a place where blood had been spilled. This earth was believed to carry both life and death within it. The high priest, known as the Kalamgar, led the ceremony. Wearing a crown of copper thorns, he recited the lament of the earth, an incantation believed to awaken the ancient spirits of the land. Into the pit, the priests poured a mixture of sacrificial blood, sacred oil, and crushed lapis lazuli, an offering to ensure the earth remained fertile. But the ritual came with a terrible risk. If any part of the ceremony was performed incorrectly, the earth would turn against its keepers. Crops would wither, livestock would sicken, and a black rot would spread across the fields. Such a catastrophe is recorded in the tablets of Namtar, which describe a failed ritual in 2203 BCE. According to the tablets, the Kalamgar that year, an ambitious priest named Nasir, sought to twist the ritual for his own gain. Instead of offering sacred oil, he poured the blood of an enemy king into the pit, hoping to curse his rivals. But the earth rejected his offering. Within days, the city's wells turned black, and a mysterious plague swept through Lagash. Entire families vanished overnight. Legends say that the black earth beneath the temple became cursed ground. Nothing would grow there, and those who entered the chamber suffered visions of shadowy figures with hollow eyes. In 1938, an excavation team uncovered the remains of the ritual pit, But what they found was even more disturbing. The soil at the bottom of the pit was still wet, and in the center lay a human skeleton with fingers outstretched, frozen as if clawing toward the surface. Local villagers warn against disturbing the earth near the ruins, claiming that the curse remains active. Some believe that on moonless nights, the shadow of the Kalimgar rises to reclaim anyone who dares to touch the blackened soil. Of all the Sumerian rituals, none inspired more fear than the Namshubkud, or Rite of the Death Seals. This forbidden ceremony was used to trap malevolent spirits, or, in times of war, to bind the souls of enemy kings and warriors. Only the most powerful priests of Eridu were allowed to perform it, for it was believed that tampering with the soul could unleash horrors beyond imagination. The ritual required a seal of Namtar, a black cylinder of obsidian engraved with the symbols of death and the underworld. This object was not merely a physical artifact. It was said to hold a fragment of Ereshkigal's power. With the seal, the priests could call forth a spirit, bind it to their will, or lock it away for eternity. The ceremony began at midnight during the Festival of Shadows, when the veil between worlds was thinnest. The chosen spirit's name was carved into the seal, and a living sacrifice was offered, usually a captured enemy or a condemned criminal. The priests chanted the Enkor Ilu, the spell of binding, while burning myrrh and bitumen to open the gate to the underworld. If performed correctly, the spirit would become trapped within the seal. But if the chant faltered or the seal cracked, the spirit could escape, often with terrifying consequences. One of the most chilling accounts involves the curse of King Inlilbani, who ruled the city of Isen. Fearing rebellion, he ordered his enemies' spirits bound within death seals and buried beneath his palace. For years, his rule was uncontested. But after his death, strange occurrences plagued the city. Witnesses reported hearing disembodied voices crying for vengeance. Guards vanished during the night, leaving only their empty armor behind. And in the king's burial chamber, the seals themselves were found shattered. It was said the spirits had broken free, and that their vengeance would not rest. Modern explorers who entered the ruins of Isen have told of an eerie presence lingering in the air. In 1971, a sealed chamber was discovered beneath the ancient palace. Inside were 7 intact death seals, each one still warm to the touch. One archaeologist claimed to hear faint whispers while handling the seals. Days later, he disappeared, leaving behind only his journal. His final entry read, "They are not gone, they are waiting." The fate of those who tamper with the death seals remains a mystery. Some scholars believe that breaking a seal releases the spirit inside, while others warn that even studying these objects invites a curse. Whatever the truth, the Sumerians themselves left behind a chilling prophecy. When the last seal is broken, the gate shall open, and the dead shall walk once more. The past is filled with secrets, some waiting to be uncovered, others better left undisturbed. If you enjoyed this dive into the unknown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. And if you dare, explore more mysteries by clicking one of these videos. But beware, some doors, once opened, can never be closed. Until next time, keep questioning everything.